We're here with Lewis Pugh, who is an extreme swimmer and obviously a climate change activist as well. Lewis, thank you very much for joining us in 50/50.
Thank you so much.
You are well known for your swims in the North Pole and in the Himalayas. What has that taught you about climate change?
Just how quickly it's happening. I mean, I did a swim in 2007 across the North Pole. In the 2 preceding years, 23% of the Arctic sea ice just melted away. And that's what enabled the swim to take place. So, I think that's the main thing, just how quickly climate change is happening.
Shortly after that, you were able to talk to Gordon Brown, and that seemed to affect climate change policy in the UK?
Well, I mean, the following year, after I did the swim in the North Pole, I tried to kayak to the North Pole. I didn't get all the way there, but I was so shocked by what I saw that I got on the phone. I was out in the Arctic, and I got on a satellite phone, and I called Downing Street, and I spoke to the Prime Minister, Gordon Brown, and I said to him, Prime Minister, we have wholly underestimated the speed of climate change. I remember in 2007, when I was in the Arctic, the majority of the ice north of Svalbard was about 3 meters thick. Just about 13, 14 months later, it was barely 1 meter thick. And standing there on the sea ice, describing this to the Prime Minister, I think it made an impact on him. And very shortly afterwards, he enacted legislation which went through the British Parliament, cutting our carbon emissions in Britain by 80% by 2050. Now, I wasn't the only person calling for that, but certainly I think it becomes very vivid when somebody is swimming in the Arctic or paddling across areas which previously were frozen over.
One of the other debates that you've got heavily involved with is the issue of fracking in the Karoo. You made an iconic speech in Cape Town a few months back related to that. Tell us about how you became involved in that debate.
It's hard not to be sort of very passionate about the issue. I mean, the Karoo is just the most beautiful part of South Africa, it really is. And I mean, the word Karoo comes from the Khoisan word meaning thirsty land. And to think that you've got gas companies and oil companies that want to come and drill here, and across America, it has damaged water supplies. They pump this cocktail of chemicals and sand and lots of water deep down into the surface. And they've damaged, the water supplies in other countries. And now they want to come here to South Africa, a country which is very arid. If we allow this to go ahead, this is just another thing which is going to escalate climate change. We have to move towards renewables, and we have to move towards them very quickly. And what drilling out this last gas is going to do is it's going to extend this life of fossil fuels, which is so damaging the environment, and it's going to take more time for us to invest in renewables. It's the wrong decision. The other thing that concerns me about this whole thing is the rush which this whole thing is happening. Like we have to make a decision in in the next sort of 2-3 months. Gas has been there for thousands and thousands of years. It's not going anywhere. I'd like to see a proper environmental study done of the impact of that gas. And also, I'd like to know the impact which it's going to have economically on South Africa, on socially. There are so many different issues which are going to play on the decision with this whole thing.
So you're calling for almost a delay on the decision more than an absolute shutting off of that option entirely?
Well, I think there should be a moratorium. I'm very glad that the government has decided to have a moratorium on the issue. Then there needs to be a thorough assessment of all the issues, and based on that, we must make a decision about whether to go ahead. I mean, I'm pretty clear in my mind what I think should be done. I really don't think that in this country, this arid country, there should be a debate about which is more important, gas or water. We can survive without gas. We cannot survive without water. It's that simple.
You are a superbly talented speaker and are very adept at harnessing people's emotions around an issue. The fracking debate in particular, I think, is one of those where the science seems to be ambivalent on either side as to whether it is hugely damaging or a relatively safe technology. Do you think...
I'm not sure I share that. I'm not sure I share that with you. I mean, there's plenty of evidence across America of places which have been fracked and underground water supplies which have been badly damaged. I mean, you just have to do a simple Google search on it and you'll find an infinite amount of places which have been damaged. We just can't afford that in South Africa.